Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another video here. So I want to talk about, I guess some of the early reviews here, and this is going to be my last video on the early reviews. I mean, technically, I've been more focusing on some things that the early reviews have said, but in this video here, I actually want to talk about how, how people have been viewing these two episodes here, and a very common concern that I've seen among a couple of reviews here. So before going any further, obviously make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get more Walking Dead content like this. The Walking Dead is almost here. It's going to be here next weekend, or not this weekend coming up, but the weekend after. And I'm just very excited to watch these two episodes. I really can't wait. Like, I'm honestly counting down the days. I cannot wait for this season to start. And I haven't been this excited in a very long time. I wasn't that excited going into part two. Well, I was excited. I'm not going to say I wasn't that excited. I wasn't as excited as I am now. I was excited, but there's just a difference here. Like there's a difference here based off of these reviews here. People seem to really like this. And not only that, I mean, we're in the final 8 now, right? Like this is where they have to find out Rick's alive. If they don't, what the hell's the point of the spinoffs? It literally makes no sense, right? So yeah, they're clearly going to, and then just sort of, yeah, how do they end some of that stuff there? And how does it set up the spinoffs? There's a lot of questions I have going into that. And that's sort of the common complaint here that I've seen in a lot of reviews here. These two episodes are pretty epic, but there seems to be a lot of stuff that they have to get through. And can they really maintain this, for the next 6 episodes? And not really maintain it in that way, but like, there's just so many things going on. How are you going to wrap everything up, right? Like there's so much intensity. There's so much going on right now. And you only have 6 more episodes left after this to actually do that. With one of those episodes as well, obviously introducing the new variant of Walker. So how the hell are you planning to get through all of this stuff here? And so I see that as a complaint, but first of all, let's go through the reviews and we'll talk about that here. So I'm just going to go with these 3 here just because, I mean, honestly, I can go with a lot more, but it would take a lot of time, and I really want to get into what I want to talk about here. But whattowatch.com, again, I'll leave a link down below to all these reviews here. Definitely go and check it out. I'm not going to get into anything they said about whatever, but their verdict was 5 stars. So I imagine that's 5 stars out of 5 stars. And their biggest thing here was, the things that they like was the final episode celebrate everything fans love about The Walking Dead. Entire cast stands out in the final episodes. Each episode has the scope and feel of a mini movie. And then the things that they're against is 8 episodes aren't enough to wrap up this huge story. Again, that's a key part here. And we don't want to say goodbye, which, yeah, that definitely, I mean, to me, the whole part of not wanting to say goodbye, to me, it's not saying goodbye because of all the shows happening next year. But yeah, let's actually get into comicbook.com here. And again, I'll leave a link down below to this article. But they rate the episodes, I believe, a 4 to 5, and it's questionable that this third and final part of season 11 would reintroduce regional variant walkers so close to the finish line, but there's a lot of life left in these closing chapters. And that's the thing too, we're getting 3 sequel shows technically, like the article says. The 3 sequel shows are set to premiere in 2023. One reuniting Rick and Michonne. There's one on Daryl overseas in France, and then The Walking Dead Dead City with Maggie and Negan traveling in New York. So that's definitely one of those things that I can see, people seem to really like these episodes, but if you're expecting this conclusion to the story, even though they are promising, and again, we'll have to wait and see, we still have not watched those episodes yet. But it's really interesting. Like, Scott Gimple, even, and Angela Kang as well, said that there's closure here. These final 8 episodes are about completing the Walking Dead story and not setting up the spinoffs. But it is really hard to see that when you're watching it. And do I have any issues with it? I really don't. Personally, for me, I actually do not have any issues with that, because like The Walking Dead ending without Rick doesn't really seem like it's the end anyways. Like, why would you want The Walking Dead to feel like it's ending when we're gonna get the reunions and stuff with Rick and stuff later on, right? So imagine Rick in the end. I don't know if they're gonna do, say, a Walking Dead season 12 in the future where you have all the characters reuniting together with Rick, and you have one last block of 6 or 8, 10 episodes or whatever it's gonna be, or if you just have them all going to the Rick and Michonne TV show. But to me, when you end that story there, like when you end that story, that's the end of The Walking Dead. And then if you want to do a next generation thing, you're sort of beginning something else. But then it's something else, right? It's not what this story is here. So to me, it doesn't really seem that surprising. And I honestly don't really understand the complaints of that. Like, I don't know how this is supposed to feel like the end when, again, there's going to be all those other shows where it's clearly not the end. And AMC and, Scott Gimple and them have basically told us this isn't the end of The Walking Dead because we have the spinoffs and stuff. Like, it's going to be around for a very long time here. And so I just don't understand the complaints about it, to finish this up and wrap it up, especially because how can you wrap up The Walking Dead without Rick? You just can't. You just can't do that. There's also this review here from Gamespot.com. This one is a little bit more negative, but to me, I feel like I do want to give more of a representation of sort of, what people are thinking here. And this one here rates it as fair, so a 6 out of 10. And the good is some strong character moments, asks at least one interesting moral question. And the bad is it still feels like it lacks a final thesis, rehashes tired philosophical debate. Villains don't rise to their intended roles as the series' final bosses. And so to me, when I look at the bad there, I go, first of all, still feels like it lacks a final thesis. Again, that's sort of the common thing here that people are talking about, is that it doesn't feel like it's the end because it's not the end. And so to me, I don't think you can really say that's a bad quality about it. It's not the end. Everyone's saying it's not the end. It's the end of the show. So they're going to end certain storylines, but there's still so much out there. They have to go find Rick. There's this whole CRM thing as well. There's so much going on here that, yeah, obviously it's not going to feel like the end. Like, it's clearly not going to feel like the end because, again, there's so much more. The rehashing the tired philosophical debate, if you don't like The Walking Dead, you don't like The Walking Dead. Like, The Walking Dead, they do that a lot. That's basically been a thing from day one. There's always this philosophical debate of, there's a lot of things, about life and death and this and that. And I think that's just sort of, if you're tired of it by now, it's one of those things where it's like, well, it's not going to go away. It's life. Like, yeah, but I've seen a lot of people review stuff like the current episodes of The Walking Dead, and they'll say things like that. And honestly, when I'm watching it, I don't really even notice it. Maybe I'm just sort of immune to it by now, but I don't really notice these debates like that anymore. I think it's just sort of a part of the show now. So I don't really agree with that. And then villains don't rise to their intended roles as the series' final bosses. I can see that being a complaint overall, for sure. That is something that I also complained about in the comic. It didn't really feel like Pamela Milton was like this final boss, but I think the problem there and the issue is that you can't view it as the final boss kind of thing, right? Like, it's kind of ridiculous to view this as Pamela Milton and Lance are the final bosses to The Walking Dead, because you have the Civic Republic there. Like, you have, like, you know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff there that it's like, I feel like a lot of these complaints wouldn't be here if Rick was on the show and if they were actually ending. And so that's basically my sort of point here. And that's what I really want to focus on, is it seems like a lot of people are complaining about the fact that there's a lot of, first of all, there's a lot of intensity and whatnot, but it just kind of feels like there's too much here to wrap up, and that it doesn't feel like it's really ending here. And then also what GameSpot says here, which is, the villains don't feel like they're the final boss here to everything. And honestly, which character would feel like the final boss? Out of all characters, I would probably go with Negan, just because, when his introduction, really, he felt like he was like the final boss, right? Of like all the villains they dealt with before. But, there's the Civic Republic, there's Major General Beale. We still don't even know who he is. He hasn't been casted yet, right? He's going to be a big part, I'm expecting anyways, of the Rick and Michonne TV show. So there's other stuff going on. That's my issue, I think, with some of these reviews, is that I think they're ignoring sort of everything. And maybe I'm not really seeing the big picture here. Maybe there's something that I'm kind of missing with all of this. That's possible. I'm just sort of giving my opinion here. But The Walking Dead wants to expand, and they want to end the story right. And obviously, ending The Walking Dead right now threw everyone off, and that wasn't the original plan. Gimple wanted to keep The Walking Dead going for a very, very long time. He wanted it to go on for however many seasons. He actually wanted Daryl and Carol to leave for a little bit. There was going to be the movies and all that, and I think the overall plan was the very last season, maybe have everyone come back, basically, and then sort of wrap up the story. But instead, what we're getting here is you're ending the main show, and then you're going to get separate spinoffs, and then at some point, I guess they're going to all join together. But that's something that remains to be seen. Who knows where that's going to happen? Is that going to happen on the Rick and Michonne TV show? Is season 12 of The Walking Dead? Could they do that? Like, there's just a bunch of things there. And so when I look at it like that, I honestly, like, I just come back to, well, yeah, it's not the end. Like, it's really not the end. And I'm expecting Dead City to air in February, or like February, March or whatever. And so personally for me, it kind of feels like The Walking Dead last 8 episodes are airing this October to November. We're going to get that winter break for about 2.5 months. and then we get The Walking Dead again, right? With this continuation of the story. And then once that's over, maybe Fear the Walking Dead ends or airs there, you know, they'll have like 8 episodes there. And then the Daryl spinoff will air, and then Comic-Con will happen or whatever, and then we'll get the Rick and Michonne TV show next fall. Like, to me, there's just so much going on, and it's so obvious as well. I mean, AMC is telling us there's all of these shows happening next year. All of these shows coming out that may actually last multiples of seasons. So The Walking Dead's not really ending here. So I just don't get the criticisms of it. But obviously people have the right to their own opinions. I'm not bashing anyone on that. It's totally fine. I just think it's an easy answer. Like, people are complaining about it, but it's like, well, I think, first of all, I think you do have to have a balance of it. I'm not going to argue that. You do have to have a balance where this does feel like the end, but it's also not necessarily going to feel like the end because there's so much going on. And you have to end it on a certain note that's going to set up the spinoffs, but also end The Walking Dead. And I really feel like searching for Rick, you know, bringing him home is going to be a really peaceful note to end on, because they know he's alive. And it's like, we're going to bring him home, and things have, you know, they're happy. They're at the Commonwealth. Things are good. And now let's go find him, basically. Right. And so, yeah, but that's basically the complaint out there. You know, I'll end the video here. That seems to be the overall complaint. And it's not just these reviews here as well. There's a lot of reviews out there that are sort of saying the same thing. Like, it doesn't necessarily feel like The Walking Dead is ending, and these last 8 are supposed to feel like the last 8, right? So it's yeah, it's gonna be a very fascinating next couple of, I guess, 2 months now. But definitely post your thoughts down below on all of this. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.